750.
Yep.
James Ryan on FZR 1000.
Oh yes, James is his bike's historic. It's not pre-modern open.
That's right, yeah. So that always creates some interest, but I think the competition in this group will come from the Formula 3 class, where we have Hamish Sellers jumping on the SV650 machine that his brother Harry generally campaigns.
Okay.
So Hamish will be trying to better his brother's PB around here, and fastest time for an SV650, I think. So that's a 58.6, I think, or 56.8.
You've got me on that one.
But the Formula 3 lap record is actually held by Jesse Woods on an RS125, and that's a 57.9. So Hamish is certainly going to give that a crack. It'll be interesting to see how he goes, but he was looking very fast on that bike here yesterday. Quite a few SV650s rolling up.
Like Rob Scott
on first on the dummy grid.
And
SV650.
Rob will certainly be pushing towards the front on that bike around here. He's very capable on the SV650. Gets around here very well.
Trevor Renton, another one.
Got Larry Eaton there on the Motard machine.
And of course, John Hughes, who was we saw in the 600 class out there on a VFR 400. He's always quick on that bike as well. So another SV650, Mark Eagling. He was coming to grips with riding around here again yesterday. Last time here, unfortunately, had a little spill at turn 1. Absolutely fine, but then to follow that up at Symonds Plains, he had a run-in with another rider and ended up crashing and breaking his collarbone. So he's just finding his feet again.
Yes, a good field of bikes coming out. There's Len Bester on the R1. Probably be the, even though it's a different category, well, 3 categories combined, I think Len will be the bike that will be leading the pack when we see the races begin.
He's certainly got the form on paper, having done the fastest time out of this group with a 56.5, I think it is, Rod?
Yes, very competitive time, even competitive in Tas Superbike. So good to see the old R1s have still got plenty of metal.
Yeah, that's certainly a good motorcycle.
They certainly are.
And the thing we've seen about this racetrack at Baskerville is that horsepower is not that critical. We've seen older model Honda CBR 1000s do some very, very competitive lap times around here.
Well, motorcycle racing still, the rider makes the difference. If we go to the outright circuit lap record here for a motorcycle, it still stands from 1999, and that particular bike that set very good rider, of course, in Sean Giles. But if you think about the type of bike back in 99, the horsepower that it would have had, would possibly 150 horsepower, would have maybe pulled it up. So it just goes to show that flowing, well handling, well steering, and a good rider, or a very good rider, makes the difference around this track.
Chances of seeing that lap record go today with Brett Simmons?
I don't. Well, look, it'd be great to see the lap record held by a Tasmanian rider for sure. Look, Brett's more than capable, I think, Chris, given if the conditions are right and he gets his head around that bike, there's every chance he could.
Would be wonderful to see, and I think it's certainly within reach. Not that it should be Brett's goal here today. Obviously, he's still learning that machine, but being only, I think, 0.8 of a second off it from his qualifying time, I think he's certainly capable of it.
So Julian Winlow out again on the motard, Chris. Always good to watch. That bike spends half a lap with the front wheel in the air, and it's not the quickest way around a racetrack, but Julian just can't help himself, as we see if he's just going over suckers now on the big Sour 500, and whether he'll power wheel it down the hill like normal. Here we go. There, on cue, front wheel in the air.
First flying lap, quickest at the moment. Peter Bellchambers 59.1. That's a good lap time for a historic 750 straight out of the box.
Yep, and yep, Pete's got a fresh bag in the back for today, so. You know what, fresher up, you can't beat having that brand new rear tyre when you go out, Chris. No,
they certainly do give you a lot of extra grip. They just bite into the track, where a worn tyre is always struggling with that little bit of squirm and wheel spin.
Absolutely, and that's I guess one of the pitfalls of motorcycle racing. They're an expensive thing to keep throwing at them, but cheaper than repairing your bike that's been crashed.
This is a good opportunity for Hamish Sellers on that SV650. He's in with a couple of faster bikes in other classes, being two historic 1000 and 750, but it's going to be a good opportunity for Hamish to, well, he's already gone through 59.8. It's going to be a good chance, as I was saying, for him to get a tow along.
Interestingly, James Ryan there, he's hasn't ridden that FZR for quite a while around this circuit. It's been more than 12 months, and that's a great time. He's done a 58.5. First time on that bike here for well over 12 months.
That's a great effort. Of course, he was just out in Superbike class on his ZX10, so he's feeling a bit more familiar with riding and the racetrack. But like you say, jumping back onto the historic bike, it usually takes a few laps to readjust. That's a really impressive time.
Absolutely, and his qualifying time in Superbike was 57.7, so he's less than a second off that on the historic bike.
Well, it speaks to what you were saying before, Rod, that it's not so much about brute horsepower around this circuit, it's how well the bikes are set up and how well they flow.
But also, when you look at that bike he's on, it's a 1989, I think, model bike, and the ZX10's a 2005 or 6 model, so a big difference in technology.
Hamish Sellers just goes through 58.9, so I think that's only a tenth of a second off what his brother Harry did as a PB, but it's very impressive.
That's a fantastic time. I haven't seen Hamish on this bike, so we know he's very fast on a 600, so seeing him on the...
and 1,000. He was running 54s on...
And 1,000, he was very fast on anything, actually.
But as I was saying, he's well placed on the track to get a tow from James Ryan and Peter Bellchambers in front of him, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that time come down again this lap.
If he gets behind Len Bester, he'll get a massive tow.
Yeah.
Len would drag him along very beautifully, I think. No offence, Len.
No,
but,
we won't talk about hamburgers either, Len. James Ryan just pulling back into the pits, a bit of a shame. Although he's gone fastest.
James is possibly, more than likely, very happy with his time, and he's conserving energy. Running in two classes, it's not easy to do.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I was talking to James this morning. He was saying he's not sure how he'll go running both bikes all day. He thinks fatigue might be an issue, so I think you're right on the money there, Rod.
Well, I know how hard it is to do just your own category. 4 races on a superbike around here, you're pretty spent by the end of the day, and I'll be not limping, but I'd be pretty stiff and sore at work the next day, or next couple of days. So after riding one of these bikes, so to ride the FZR as well, that can't be an easy bike to ride. It's still going to be a bit of a handful around here.
Yeah, they have a bit of weight about them.
They certainly are. They take a bit of manhandling. The older bikes, they don't turn into a corner like the modern bikes do. They don't hold a line like the modern bikes do. They've got less horsepower and they've got more weight, so they don't tend to stop as well either. So there are, those times that we're seeing, a mid 58 there is a great time. In fact, he even bettered it from when we were talking, Chris. So James, the next lap round, did a 58.4 there, and he's decided that's enough.
I'd be very interested to know what his PB is around here on that bike. I don't know if he's been in the 7s.
I think so. I think he's definitely been in the high 7s in that bike, or even mid 7s, but I guess there's a question that we'll fire at him during the day if we get a chance. Yeah,
we certainly know he's a good rider. It's always exciting watching James race as well. He looks good on a motorcycle.
So just looking at the times, our usual front runner Len Bester, his best times are 56.5. Len's still warming up here. He's done a 60.1, so quite a bit off the pace, and we know that he did have an issue with his clutch, so that could be the reason. He was complaining about it, or not complaining about it, but mentioning it yesterday that the clutch was slipping. So if that's the case, I'd say that's why we're seeing Len Bester at a 60.1.
Yeah, well, he did change the clutch out of a spare engine that he has.
Okay. Did that overnight?
Yep. But you're right, it still could be an issue.
Well, I'd say that's definitely... Well, Len, as we know, he's very, very capable rider, so there's definitely got to be an issue with the bike to be running those times. So we've just seen him now do a 59.5. But looking at the competition, that's a long way off the pace at this stage.
Yeah, look, providing there's no bike issues, I think Len's still the man to beat. But who knows, maybe the clutch is slipping, maybe he's got a problem. I know he's riding around behind Stuart Bugg at the moment, so given a bit of clear track in a couple of laps, maybe we'll see that time come down into the 58s.
Well, he's got 2 minutes to go, so hopefully he can get some clear track and put his head down and have a crack at that time. So here comes Peter Belchambers just crossing the line there, and Peter's gone pole.
58.4. What a great time from Peter Belchambers.
It is a great time, but he has been quick around here before. So,
he certainly has.
That's a lot of James Ryan back to second. Hamish Sell is still holding out third on the grid at this stage. It looks like Hamish is just coming into the pit, so that's his session over.
So Len Besser just goes 3:59.5, so he's fourth on the grid. He'll be wanting to just improve a little bit to get himself onto the front row on this lap, because I wouldn't be surprised if the flag